Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom Into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
All right, let's get started. This is Ian Blackburn with learnaboutwine.com and the stars of Napa Valley. We've got an amazing show for you tonight. We want to thank you guys for all joining us. People are tuning in from all over the place. Our numbers are going to continue to grow here. And thank you very much for being with us. I'm so thrilled. Last night was so much fun, and we had so much positive reinforcement for last night. I hope you guys are all up for another big one. And we got an awesome group from all over the place. Lisa, thanks for joining us. Hector, Jessica, thank you. Hey, Greg Gura, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Ian?
Good, buddy.
You know, I was just real quick. I was actually looking on my calendar. Last year, tonight was the last event for probably most of everybody. You know, we had the Napa event at La Brea Bakery, and now we're doing it online. So, you know, it's changed, but you know, we've gone from one night to 4 nights. So I don't know which is better.
Well, what do we got? What did we have as far as an update right now on the auction?
The auction we're doing great. I just posted, we're approaching over 1,800, close to 2,000 for night one. And like I said, everybody's bidding, tons of great stuff. The wine's getting bids, and even we have the Italian Zoom cooking class, which has a bid. We have a chess lesson online, which is getting a bid. So off to a great start. Cannot complain.
Awesome, great. I'm helping a few customers get on board still, but I think we'll be over 50 here in a few minutes on Zoom. And thank you guys for joining us. We've got winemakers signed on and ready to go. Alex, are we in good shape there?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Alexandra's on our Zoom tonight. She helps us with all of the interactions, our slideshow tonight. And of course, she coordinated with all the wineries to get this pulled together, and she does a great job for us. So our first winery that we're going to be tasting tonight will be Silverado, that we're going to be heading into Coquerel. Hi, Russ. We'll get right back to you. Charles Krug, Smith Devereux, Justice Wines by New Frontier Wine Company, Marston, and Unwritten Wines. Unwritten Wines, tonight it's going to be presented by Isaac Pirello. Isaac, are you there, buddy? Can you help me with that pronunciation?
It's Pirello.
All right. Pirello. Pleasure to meet you, sir.
You as well.
So last night we went a little long. We're going to hold everyone to a 7-minute time frame. So keep that in mind, winemakers. That 7 minutes goes very quickly. And so we're going to protect Isaac and the others here. From Marston Winery, James Leahy is on our Zoom tonight. James, where are you?
I'm in the upper left on my screen. I'm not sure where I am.
I see it right at the top.
Yeah, good to see everybody. How are you?
Fantastic, James. Thank you very much. Michael Pletz. Michael, I saw your face earlier. Where are you, buddy?
How are you?
Good, dude. Thank you for being with us, sir. We've got Ian Devereux. Where are you, Ian? Are you out there? Maybe not yet for Ian. Us Ians can have a hard time. We'll get Ian on the Zoom. Peter Mondavi. Peter Mondavi Jr. out there.
Hi.
And actually, it's going to be his daughter, huh?
His niece, actually, Rihanna.
Niece.
Rihanna.
There is some double booking going on, so I'm filling in as the next gen.
All right, next gen, we got you. Fantastic.
Hey, Rihanna, tell Pete I'm happy it's you.
I will be happy to tell him that.
And give him my best.
I will, of course.
Christine Barbie with Coquerel. Christine, are you handy? We'll get you up there. And then Russ, it's up to you. We're going to give you our first spotlight. But first, Kat is here with the Napa Valley Vintners. And we've had a great relationship with the Napa Valley Vintners for a long time. And we've made we've moved mountains together. And it's been an amazing relationship. We're super excited to have the Napa Valley Vintners. Kat, so good to see you.
Oh, Ian, thank you. And it's so nice to see the vintners and everyone joining us tonight. So thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday evening and welcome. And we look forward to welcoming you back to Napa Valley real soon, hopefully. We do have a new website that might help with your planning purposes. It's napavalley.wine. Thank you, Ian. And within here, there's a lot of information about the appellation, also about events coming up, virtual as well as in person. And then we also have a trip planner. So when you are ready to come up and visit, you can meet the good folks that are here with us this evening in person, hopefully, real soon. And you can search by various features. So if you wanted to search by your favorite variety, you can do that. If you wanted to search by wine caves, kid-friendly, maybe a charging station, we have all these various ways that you can meet our vintners and taste their wine. So we look forward to welcoming you back to the Valley real soon.
This website, I was playing around with it today, is rich. Man, you guys really put a lot into it, and it is gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you. But again, hopefully you'll, really any information you guys need outside of the vintners tonight, please use the website. And again, we look forward to welcoming you back to the Valley.
Also on our new Learn About Wine website, we're posting some really new fun classes and of course our calendar of activities where we promoted this event, also all of our upcoming stars events, and in the complimentary classes area, Napa Valley has a couple of really fun activities for your consideration, continuing education in wine, and nobody does it better.
Thank you, Ian.
So with that, let's get a little wine going on. Get a little glass of Sauvignon Blanc, wine number 1. And if you didn't already print out the tasting mat, hopefully you found that in the email at the very bottom. And also the brochure giving you all the details and the order and which wines we're tasting, price points, website, all that good stuff is on there, okay? So check that out. It's on the email we sent out this evening, and I think we sent it out a couple of times to make sure everybody got it. So with that, let me we're also on Facebook Live, by the way, and if you want to revisit the video, go over to our Wine LA page and check out Zoom Into Wine. You'll find it on our page. All right, let's get started. And I'm going to open up our first slideshow and get it rocking. Russ, let's toast Russ and say hello to everybody. Cheers, everyone. A little Sauvignon Blanc from Silverado to get us started.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers. Oh, Ian.
Yes.
See you, buddy.
Thank you, man.
Russ is like my mentor in this wine industry. He's my hero. I love this guy. So for all you out there, he's done a lot for this wine industry. And I mean it actually, as sarcastic as I can sometimes be, which you may learn. So he's a legend in this industry, and I'm grateful to be on here with you, man.
Cool.
It's the thing is, like, when you get really old, people start saying that about you. It's really discouraging. It's unreal. All Ian means is that I pay for my share of the lunches, right, buddy?
You pay for my share too, right? So.
Well, wow, it's fantastic. Other Ian Blackburn, good to see you, man. It's been a long time, and it's been a long time since I was making the trek down to the beautiful Southland. I was looking forward to doing more stories in Napa Valley now that my daughter's at University of Redlands, and then COVID came along. What's that about, right? That's ridiculous. So yeah, listen, everybody, so good to see you all, and can't wait to have you back up. I'm gonna echo what Kat said. Can't wait to have you back up in Napa, and can't wait to have you wandering around and visiting all of us. So that's long overdue. We're ready to get back up and get back in action. I think, I mean, it's funny. I like when you talk about Silverado, you have to kind of worry about like how much redundancy is going on. We are celebrating our 40th anniversary as a winery this year, which is like incredible and so fun. The Miller family obviously has been farming for a little bit longer than that. We, Ron and Diane Miller came into the valley in 1976 and purchased this ranch, the Miller Ranch, where the Sauvignon Blanc is grown. It's our only vineyard for Sauvignon Blanc, and the vineyard only really has Sauvignon Blanc on it. It's a Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon in that vineyard. And so it's a special vineyard for us because it was our very first purchase in 76. And then it was in 78 that Ron and Diane, after having their eye on it for 3 years, finally talked Harry C. into selling them the famous Silverado Vineyard. And that's where we finally in 1981, when we started making wines, that's when we took the name Silverado, kind of adopted the name of the vineyard for the name of the winery as well. And that's the shot that you see. I'm sitting right there in the left-hand corner. Although it's kind of dark outside, it's a kind of beautiful shot there of Napa Valley in spring. So we thought we'd sort of bring that to you. Silverado really started when that really handsome dude on the right in the picture, in that black and white picture, went up to play a football game. He was a wide receiver for the fabulous USC Trojans. Ron's long since passed, but every time I say USC Trojans, I have to say fabulous in front of it because that's what he taught me to say. I don't know anything about the Trojans, but he went up. The Trojans were playing that other team. I don't know, Stanford, something like that. I don't know. And they were playing in Kezar Stadium, big game. And after the game, somebody introduced him to that really beautiful woman that's on the left, and her name was Diane Disney. And he was so awestruck that he barely could say anything, and she thought he was a total square, and completely ignored him the whole evening, which was awesome. But hey, it was a different era. So the way they all got up to the football game was they all got on a train, one of those things. So they were on the train on the way back down to LA, and Ron bumped into her and said, "You know what? I feel really bad about last night. Is there any way I could buy you a beer and make it up to you?" And she said, "Why, sure." And the rest was history. So it's awesome. They got into wine in the 70s, and like a lot of folks visited Napa Valley, and like a lot of you, just Diane always said every time she went around, past where Don Giovanni is right now, and the valley kind of opens up right in front of you, she just like, I'm home. So the first time she went to the valley, she was home, and she decided that was where she wanted to live. And Miller Ranch became her home from 76 on, which is just so great. Right now, just so y'all know, they purchased about another 4 vineyards. So the estate is 6 vineyards. We're 100% estate grown, produced, and bottled from those 6 vineyards all around Carneros, with the Weinberg and Fire Tree Vineyard, Coombsville, which is our oldest vineyard, first planted in 1868, and Miller Ranch, which we talked about, and then of course Soda Canyon. Up Soda Canyon, we have some olive trees, and we have some Sangiovese and some other fun stuff. and then of course the famous Silverado Vineyard in the heart of Stag's Leap District. So that's who we are as an estate. But we're going to talk about Miller Ranch a little bit more here, and I've got a little bit of a video, I think, to play for you to kind of give you an overview of the ranch and where we are and who we are.
Maybe not.
Actually, that video is really so like not necessary, I think.
Okay, good. It's really nice that you said that, because as I'm loading this up, it says I don't have permission. So I'm
as they say in the business, imagine, if you will, flying over a vineyard. That vineyard though is a terrific vineyard, and maybe if we just gotta get past this thing, or I don't know if we.
Yeah, we're gonna look at that.
There it is. Look at that. So the vineyard reminds me that the Napa Valley is just one of those super unique places. You're going to hear this from everybody tonight. You know, half the world's soil orders, these amazing microclimates. Here on the Miller Ranch, we have out there by Hopper Creek, where you can kind of see the tree line that's right above that fog line in the distance. We've got this sandy soils and gravelly soils that Hopper Creek is just deposited on the top part of the vineyard. And then as you get closer to your perspective there, looking out over our willow pond, it gets more loamy soils and deeper soils. And so we've got 7 underlying soil types here. It's all planted to Clone 1 Sauvignon Blanc, which, I always think it's kind of fascinating. Clone 1 was really the Chateau Yquem clone. Came from Yquem in the 1880s. And excuse me a second, I got some guys coming in. It's late at night and the winery needs cleaning, guys. Anyway, sorry about that.
No problem. I was going to cover for you, but I'm going to throw it back in there.
No. So it's interesting because New Zealand, they always call it the California clone, because at the time when New Zealand was developing Sauvignon Blanc, they got their plant material from UC Davis, but actually that stuff was originally from the 1800s from Chateau Yquem, which I think is a really fascinating story about clones moving around the world. But even though that's only a single clone of Cabernet, it's so interesting how mutable Cabernet is. How that in those deep soils you get more of a kind of I love the kind of deep sort of tangerine and tangelo kind of orange citrus that it gets. When it's in those mixed sand and clay, it's a little bit more like what you would expect out of Sauvignon Blanc, which is grapefruit and ruby grapefruit and, kind of the more yellow citrus. And then on the other side of Hopper Creek, where it's super sandy and gravelly, it really has this fantastic sort of limey essence. So what we're trying to do on Miller Ranch is just put all that together, put all those citrusy flavors together. Maybe there's a little green melon some years not. And then for texture, we add a little bit of the Semillon, which is, you can see this very left-hand block here that's closest to the willow pond. And then it's the more green looking block there is where the Semillon is. So we'll put that in barrel to give ourselves a little texture. I think that next slide kind of shows what we're doing. We bring it in pretty classic, it's all whole cluster. And then we get that free run juice going and then get it fermenting. I love this shot of John and Elena looking as though they haven't been working for 17 hours that day that we shot them in front of the fermenters. These are our winemakers. John's been with us. He's just celebrating his 30th year with us, and Elena 25 years with us. So amazing continuity we've got on this estate. I will tell you all, when we're all ready for all of our restrictions to be lifted, you really need to come up when we're bringing in the Sauvignon Blanc, because I mentioned that liminess and then a little bit of that oranginess. There's a corner that we always put these 2 blocks in that really show those characteristics. And when they get fermenting, it's like Cointreau and we call it the margarita corner. So you all need to come up and let me show you the margarita corner when we're fermenting Sauvignon Blanc. So anyway, that I don't want to, I know folks are going to want to ask questions, and I know we want to have time to talk about the wine and get into the wine. So I think I'll leave it at that, with one small exception, but which is the exit through the gift shop exception. If you all want to try just a little bit more than a little jar of this, just for tonight, for you folks, if you get on our website and plug in Silverado Stars, so SV Stars, we'll give you a little break on the wine just so you get a chance to sample it.
Phenomenal, awesome. This is a benchmark Northern California Napa Valley Sauvignon Blanc, and it's single vineyard, and really dependable, and the price value here is superb. And I will tell you, in a recent tasting, I used it and did this really fantastic Chev with your Sauvignon Blanc, and it is the ultimate pairing. Is a great Chev with Sauvignon Blanc. It's a really, really good food-friendly type of way. And you're getting people around the table. You want to have a little cheese plate out. Think of a little Sauvignon Blanc and some Chev. Maybe even decorate it with a little bit of honey, some jam, some quince paste, things like that. But this is a great way to start off a meal. And as I'm talking about it, my mouth is watering. And that's what Sauvignon Blanc does, is it really kind of intensifies your appetite and wakes up your senses, and it's just a great place to start. So thanks for kicking off our tasting, and a fantastic version of Sauvignon Blanc. Any questions for Russ?
Thanks, Russ. That was nice.
Cool.
And does the Disney connection, do we get any discounts at Disneyland or anything?
Well, I mean, now I'm working for the third generation, and of course that doesn't have much to do with the company anymore. But hey, I can deliver on the wine and the wine experience. I can do that. So.
Oh, cool! I got my Disney representative right sitting over there. So.
I like to drink wine and play golf. Love that golf course over there too.
Yeah. Boy, listen, I just want to full disclosure, right? So Silverado, pretty interesting word. Only a gringo could make up that word, right? I mean, I guess they decided this mining town up on the hill there at, on Mount St. Helena on the eastern slopes was going to be the next bonanza. It was going to be the El Dorado of silver, and so they called it the Silverado. And it was this huge, 1870s-ish, huge boom. I mean, it was the third largest town in California at one point, and they really needed to build a road on the high side of the valley. It didn't get flooded, so they could get food and stuff up there, and they could get the silver out. And so that's how we got the Silverado Trail. And I think just as they were finishing the trail, of course, they ran out of silver and the whole thing went bust. So it was the Silverado Trail is truly now the road to nowhere. When Harry C. named the vineyard, and by the way, that's in the other connection we have. I don't know if you know that Harry C. was the guy that restored the vineyard. It was first planted in the 1870s, but in the 1950s, he restored the vineyard to Cabernet and at the time Chardonnay. I don't know if you know that, but that is C. That his grandmother was Mary C. of C's Candy. So there's a little connection there as well. I can't do anything about the candy either, but now it's funny with Silverado. We've got the fabulous golf course and we've got and hotel and we've got my favorite. We've got a dry cleaner, and my favorite, we have a car detailer. It's called Silver Auto. Get it? Right? I just want to tell y'all, we're just the winery. We're just the little winery on the hill. I can't get you
not everything that sparkles.
I can't get you golf. I can't get you auto detailing. I can't even get you dry cleaning. I'm practically worthless, but I can get you some great Sauvignon Blanc and some Cabernet.
That's all we're asking.
That's right. Now I want to introduce Christine Barbie to our tasting. Christine, thank you for bringing Coquerel Wines, and please help me with the pronunciation.
Good evening. Yes, my name is Christine Barbe. I'm French, so I hope you will understand the French accent, or you are going to work on your French tonight. So my name is Christine Barbe, and I'm the winemaker and the vineyard manager for Coquerel Wine. I was born and raised in Bordeaux, France, where I studied winemaking and viticulture. And I work also in Bordeaux at Château Carbonieux and La Louvière and the Pessac Léonien. And in 1996, I was graduate with a PhD in oenology and viticulture, and I came in California to work in the wine business. And Coquerel Wine is owned by Brenda and Clay Coquerel, who are from Texas. Clay is a doctor, and he's a well-known dermatopathologist. And Clay and Brenda are wine lovers. In the picture, you have Clay and Brenda at the end.
Okay, you want me to go there first?
So, but I wanted to speak a little bit about them because it's their brand. So Clay and Brenda are wine lovers, and they started collectioning wine when they were traveling around the world, and they fall in love with Napa Valley. And in 2006, they bought a vineyard that they named Walnut Wash. So you could see Clay and Brenda there. Walnut Wash because we have a huge walnut tree on the property, which is beautiful. So we named the property after that. So the property is in Calistoga. It's in the north of the Napa Valley. And I joined them in 2006 to start making Coquerel wine. From the variety we have on the vineyard. And at first it was mostly Sauvignon Blanc because we had a lot of Sauvignon Blanc, and it's a variety that I like to make. I make Sauvignon Blanc at Carbonieux and in different winery before in California. So, but over the year we decided to use the fruit we had on the property because we had Verdelho. I don't know if people know what Verdelho is, but it's a white variety from Portugal. So we had that on the property, so we decided to make some Verdelho and some Petite Syrah and Tempranillo. And in 2011, we decided to add a Cabernet Sauvignon to the portfolio, but we didn't have Cabernet Sauvignon on the property, so we started to try the different best area of the Napa Valley for Cabernet, because as you know, the wine came from the vineyard, and the vineyard will reflect the vineyard. The wine will reflect the vineyard and the weather of the year. So it's what the French people call terroir. So from 2011 to 2016, we tried different terroirs of the Napa Valley to make our Cabernet. But over the year, we enhanced the vineyard, we regrafted the variety we didn't like to Sauvignon Blanc. And in 2015, we planted our vineyard of Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc. Because the idea of Coquerel was to move 100% estate, and except for one Cabernet Franc that we like in Coonsville, but today everything is estate. So today Coquerel is 2,000 cases of wine a year with like 7 different varieties. So what you are going to test today, it's the Cabernet Sauvignon Coquerel 2016. And I wanted just to speak a little bit about the vintage 2016, because everything starts with the vineyard and the weather during the season. So 2016 was a drought year, a dry year, and it was the number 6 years of drought in the valley. We had a dry winter, and all the rain arrived in March, which was welcome because end of March we have a bud break. And we were lucky in May. In May, the vineyard bloomed, and during the bloom, the morning temperature was not that cold, so we had a good fruit set. So 2006 was a large crop, but a good crop because we had a drought. Compared to 2015, the morning in 2015 were very cold, and we had a huge loss of crop. So 16 was welcome. In 16 we didn't have any frost. The summer was warm. The morning was cool, and we didn't have a heat wave until mid-September, which is normal in California. So we made this Cabernet Sauvignon with a blend of 3 vineyards. I choose 3 vineyards in 2016. 1 vineyard on the hillside above Hennessy Lake that I harvested in September. 1 vineyard in Napa Valley floor in high density that we harvested in October, mid-October, and 1 vineyard in Coquerel that we harvested late October. So I choose these 3 vineyards because they bring to the blend 3 different ingredients. The vineyard in above Hennessy Lake on the hill bring the backbone tannin to the wine. The vineyard of Napa Valley floor bring more flavor to the wines, a lot of black fruit, and the vineyard in Coquerel, some silky tannin. So overall, when you make the wine, you decide on harvest date with a lot of tasting. And people need to understand that the winemaking depends really on people and have an ability to taste, because there are no high-tech gadgets to help you to harvest. It's mostly with taste. So the winemaking is, we bring the fruit early in the morning, we pick early in the morning or at night. We bring the fruit in the winery, we destem, we do some cold maceration, 1 or 2 days, and then we increase the temperature. We do some pump over to mix the skin and the juice during the fermentation. And on small lot, we do some punch down. And then every day we check the fermentation, we test, check the temperature. It's quite important also to extract the tannin, the color. And when the wine is ready, we press it and we move it in barrel. We try to keep separate all the lot, the press and the free run. And over the time in barrel, we test and eventually we blend and we bottle. And so today, it's today what you test, it's a young wine, it's a teenager. 2016, it's a good year, and could stay. You could enjoy it now, and you could enjoy it for the next 10, 20 years. And I hope you will enjoy it.
I will say whenever I start to taste one of your wines, I prepare myself for a really unique expression. It's so pretty, so delicate, so it draws me into the glass. It gets me a little closer to the glass, and it's so there's just something very almost fragile about the mouthfeel. I just really love your style, and I think there's a moment for every style. But I think there's also the great thing about the wine world is that it allows, especially the Napa Valley, is it allows so many different interpretations, and I just really appreciate the way you put things together and have a little different idea than some other wineries, and I really appreciate the difference.
So I just wanted to add that our sales and marketing person, Stacy, put a promo code on the website for people to have a discount, and if they could enjoy the other wine we are making, because we make a lot of wine, and voila.
Well, you make a lot of wine compared to what you used to make, maybe, but still it's small brands and very, very good stuff. And this wine is around $60 retail, really a beautiful rendition. And I love this particular vintage too. I've tasted your wine many, many years, and this is really, really a gorgeous Cabernet. So thank you very much. Pleasure to see you. And with that, we'll go to our audience and see how you're doing. What'd you guys think of that? Wasn't that great, Wendy?
Oh, I loved it. I wish I had more. It was really great.
We really loved it. It had an amazing aromatic opening. Beautiful. Very nice. Thank you.
Cool. And all the winemakers on the Zoom tonight have the tasting kits, and we would love for you guys to be as involved as any of us in commenting questions. Maybe there's things that you smell in the wine. Put them in the chat box if you don't want to speak up, but be involved and just have fun with it. Christine, you'll see. We move on with Charles Krug and family of the Mondavi family. Really, really great to have you here.
Hi, thank you, Ian. And I know we've met in the past, so good to see your face again. It's been a long time.
Well, thank you for being with us, and excited to hear what's happening at Charles Krug and taste your beautiful wine. Wine number 3, everybody.
All right, so we have for wine number 3 tonight, it's our 2017 Charles Krug Generations. I'll go through some of our history and things and then finish up with the wine, but feel free to type in any questions you guys have and I can address that after I'm done presenting in the chat box. So we are actually, Charles Krug Winery is the oldest winery in Napa Valley. So it was actually founded by a gentleman named Charles Krug back in 1861, which in historical terms, I should say, that's actually the same year that President Lincoln was inaugurated, which always kind of blows my mind because it sounds like it was a long time ago. But the fact that it was that same year is kind of amazing to me. But Charles Krug was very much an innovator at the time. He was one of the early adopters of doing single varietals in the area. He actually learned some of his winemaking from at Buena Vista Winery over in Sonoma, which is the oldest winery in California. But what's cool is he quite literally married the rich girl in town here in Napa Valley, and his dowry was about 500 acres, and that was what he used to found Charles Krug Winery. So it's been around ever since. What's pictured here is actually a historical building that he himself constructed back in 1880s. This is actually where we host our special events, and then we have a second building on the property as well, which he built in the 1860s. The first rendition actually did burn down and he rebuilt it in the 1870s. And that is actually where our tasting room is, where I hope to see everybody in person one day soon. We are doing outdoor tasting slowly but surely. Obviously, everybody knows things are opening up, so we'll see when we get back to normal over here. But my family actually comes into the picture in the 1940s. So believe it or not, the Mondavis actually, when they came over from Italy, my great-grandparents, Cesare and Rosa Mondavi, actually settled in a small town called Virginia in Minnesota. And they were actually part of the mining industry at first. That's where they worked. And then after my great-grandfather's brother passed away in a mining accident, they decided to open up a grocery store and a boarding house instead. It was a much safer job. And fast forward to 1919, when we had a little hiccup in our history called Prohibition. They actually went to my great-grandfather Cesare and said, hey, can you get us wine grapes to make our own wine at home, which was still legal during Prohibition. You could make about 2 barrels of wine per household as long as the wine never left the house. It's kind of a fine print thing that a lot of people don't know about Prohibition history. So my great-grandparents took advantage of that, and they became shippers of wine grapes to not just Minnesota and their town, but to a lot of the Midwest and even some of the East Coast. So then they ended up moving back to, or relocating their whole family to California, Lodi originally. And they had all these connections within the wine industry where they were sourcing a lot of their grapes from, and that included Napa Valley. So eventually Prohibition ended, thankfully for us, all of us here tonight. And they decided why not make their own wine. And so they started shopping around for a winery. And in 1914, that's when they came across Charles Krug. and they bought the original estate, which is in St. Helena, for $75,000 cash, which at the time was obviously a ton of money. These days, it's nothing. It's a little over 170 acres is the original estate. And that's where we're still at today. So we are still a historical landmark. And over the years, we've been able to develop our style that we are today. So we've been around, it'll be 80 years come 2023 that my family's owned the winery. I'm fourth generation. I'm happy to say we just welcomed our fifth generation a month ago. He's actually napping right now before I put him to bed after this call. But what we did do over the years, or I should say my grandfather, what he did over the years was he had the foresight of wanting to own his source of grapes. And so we are one of the larger landowners. Oh, looks like you're going to meet the fifth generation here in a second. He's what my grandfather did was he actually bought a lot of land. Here we go.
All right.
The little guy.
Cool.
We actually bought, his name's Carlos. We actually bought a lot of land back in the 50s and 60s. And so my grandpa did was so his ability to control the source really is what elevated Charles Krug from back in the 50s and 60s, where we were one of the largest wine producers in Napa Valley, to our more luxury wines that we're producing today, which takes me into Generations, which is what you're drinking right now. Some of that wine actually does come off of the vineyard that you see pictured here, which is our original estate. But Generations is it is a family reserve red blend. And what basically happened was my dad got his hand on some blending grapes years ago and decided to make a proprietary red blend. Whereas before, my grandfather, Peter, was always 100% purist of everything. And what he did was he blended everything together, and we decided to name it after the family and all our generations. It is always a cab-based red blend. The blend does change year to year, depending on which varietals we put in, but it's always at least 3 of the 5 Bordeaux varietals that go into it. So this vintage, 2017, is 83% Cab, 13% Petit Verdot, and 4% Merlot. I will add in that that is actually the most Petit Verdot I have ever seen in any of our wines, I think, in the history of my life that I know of. And it really is beautiful. Something about 2017 really elevated some of our Petit Verdot quality, which I actually think some of it we were able to pull off of our Howe Mountain vineyard. So we do have, again, that luxury of being able to pull from a lot of different vineyards across Napa Valley. And it really is a beautiful wine that has a very smooth, velvety finish. It's not too overpowering on the palate, at least I think. But I will go ahead and leave that there. And like I said, if anybody has any questions, please type into the box. We do have a promo code for you, NVV20, for 20% off your wine purchase off of the website, charleskrugwines.com. So there you go.
Great job. I got to tell you, when people ask me, I'm looking for a birth year wine, you're a good bet.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of options for you. My grandfather, Peter Sr., he was a bit of a hoarder. So we still have a lot of old vintages at the winery. So if anybody's ever interested, you just reach out. We can't necessarily sell every vintage, but our team will always take a deep dive into the vault and see what we have hiding. But it is kind of fun tasting our vintage selection that lasts so long. And then the Generations that can age up to 20 plus years as well.
Well, it's delicious. And thank you for sharing it with us. It's awesome.
Thanks for having me. And I'll make sure I tell Pete that you guys liked me more than him.
Yeah.
My uncle.
And Carlos, tell Carlos this was his first wine tasting appearance, even if it wasn't.
Yeah, no, actually it was.
That's cool. That's cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, fantastic. Anybody have any question for, we've got some really, really amazing people here on the Zoom. We go for generations of connections and people that have worked in the Napa Valley for a very long time. Kat, how long have you worked for the Napa Valley Vintners?
Oh, I've been here for 15 years, but no one wants to hear that. There's actually a question. Rihanna, it's so good to see you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Kat.
I know we miss you. What is the percentages in the blend again? That was one of the questions that came up.
Yeah, like I said, it's always majority Cabernet. This vintage, 83% Cabernet, 13 Petit Verdot, and 4 Merlot, 100% estate grown.
Lots of comments about Pink Martini. All right, well, check out the chat box. And, there's a lot of communication going on there. It's too much for me to actually catch up on, but I really appreciate it. And Greg, how you doing?
I'm good. Just checking out the auction.
Cool.
Getting some lively bidders there. Of course, Lisa bidding on a ton of stuff. Norma bidding on a ton of stuff. So all good.
Cool. And if you want to help us out, get in there and bid early and get outbid. This is a magnum of the wine that you're just tasting for $90. That's crazy. So if, let's say somebody doesn't outbid you, you get a great deal. If someone outbids you, you just raised money for charity. And that's a really good way to go. So think about it. They're always, wine is such a great gift. And you could always use a few more gifts to give folks, if not yourself.
And like Ian said, you don't have to bid tonight. We were running this auction till Sunday, March 21st at 9 p.m. So it's open for the next 10 days.
That's right. And if you don't bid, Lisa will buy it all. We've learned that.
I think she actually has about 18 bottles.
Well, she uses my formula. You bid on a lot of things that you want, and then you win what you win. But
and you know what? You drink some of it, you give some away for gifts.
Yep, she does. She's a very generous person, I can tell you that.
Absolutely.
Well, we will move into wine number 4 with Smith Devereux and Mr. Ian Devereux. Good to see you, sir.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. What a wonderful company to be in. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this.
Really, really cool to have you here, man.
Thank you.
Hey,
I'm out here in my wine cellar right now. I've got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old running around in the house, and nowhere really to hide from them. So I decided this would be the best place to take you, since I can't be out in the vineyards right now. My name is Ian Devereux, and I am I'm the new kid on the block around here. I've been in Napa Valley about 15 years. Our first vintage was 2012. My story really began when my parents used to bring me up to Napa Valley to pick up their allocations from Chateau Montelena, and I used to always come up here with them. They would drag me kicking and screaming. I always said when I was a kid, I was like, one day I will move up here and I will buy a vineyard, and I'm going to tear it all down and buy a horse, because I don't know why anyone comes up here and spends all this time sitting around drinking. Obviously things have changed. My story kind of continues in being a bartender down in Santa Barbara, learning about all the wineries down there, and then leads me to what really brought me to Napa, which is that I became a writer for Lonely Planet travel guides. And I didn't want to continue doing that, because it was like a million first dates never getting to kiss the girl. Every time you go to a new location, you swear you're going to come back, but just when you get to know the whatever city you're in, you have to travel onward. So I quit that job, and I became really good friends with the president of Lonely Planet, though. And at one point he asked me, he's like, so what are you doing with your life, kid? I'm like, well, I'm playing in bands, I'm doing some writing, I'm still doing this kind of stuff, and I'm dating this girl. I think I'm falling in love with a girl up in Napa Valley. And he went, whoa, stop right there. I just took over a magazine, and I got one writer, and he's great. He's a sommelier, and all he'll write about are the wines on his list, and they're impossible to find. And I don't understand what he's talking about half the time. And our other writer, she's awesome too, but everything she writes about is so glorious that I don't know what's really good and what's not, because everything's so good. Would you mind, while you're up there falling in love, would you mind writing about wine for my magazine, 7x7 San Francisco, the way that you wrote for Lonely Planet? And I said, well, sure, man. I'll do it, but I'm only gonna do it for a couple months, because I don't want to get stuck in this writing niche, I guess. And well, if you fast forward 3 years, I visited almost 2,000 wineries, and I had become one of the major conduits for information about Napa Valley and Sonoma and Livermore and even Italy for San Francisco. And it was a beautiful way to get introduced to this community, because everywhere that I went, I wasn't selling anything. I was just asking for people's stories. And when they shared them with me, I was able to share them with the country. And it was such an amazing way to get introduced to these people and then come up with other ideas and things that I was able to do, events and award ceremonies, and writing about these wonderful places and being in them. You start to catch the bug. If you fast forward 9 years, I'd fallen in love with the girl. I'd married her. I'm living up here, and I'd been writing for Wine Enthusiast and Edible Marin. I even did a 4-part series for Psychology Today about the health aspects of wine. And I was interviewing somebody. He asked me, "So how long have you been writing about wine?" And how long have you been writing? I said, "Oh God, this has been 10 years now." And he went, "Wow, 10 years just telling other people's stories." And I was like, "Oh man, you are a jerk." but the reality was he was right. And so I actually rushed back right after that. I was sharing an office with my closest friend in the Valley, John Trouchard. And I said, "Hey man, I heard you trying to sell some grapes that you're farming right in front of my house up in St. Helena. I want to buy those grapes and make a wine." And John's family has been farming Napa Valley since the 70s. And at that point, he was farming like 50 vineyards. And he said, "Ian, you know what? I have a better idea. I'm farming like 50 vineyards right now, and I'm having to broker and sell these grapes, and I don't want to do it anymore. What if we started a winery together, and we did everything from vine to bottle, but we didn't have to pay the mortgage on the land? And what if we made our wines at a close family's friend's winery so that we didn't have to pay for being, for custom crush? We wouldn't have to pay for a winery. We could have some of the best values or best margins in the wine industry." And I jumped at that. And so we we made our first vintage in 2012. And since then, it has just been an absolutely wild ride. For any of you who are writers, you know how that works. You get paid by the word, and they usually don't want you to write more than 300 words, but they want you to take 2 weeks writing it. So I came into this without much, but I had wonderful partners and incredibly wonderful relationships throughout the Valley that I still maintain. The wine that you're drinking is our 2016 Cabernet. I'm stoked to say that it's a relatively new release. We just got our 4th gold medal, this time in the 4th gold from the San Francisco Chronicle Wine Competition, which is an especially wonderful thing given that it is a $55 bottle. What I love about this wine, and what I love in general about what we do, is I talk about accessibility. We only make 500 cases of this wine, and so really limited production. It is accessible in flavor. We try to make it accessible in price at $55. And we also really pay a lot of attention to the environment. People ask us, "Do you farm sustainably?" And we say, "Yes." "Is your wine vegan?" And I say, "No, my wine does not eat meat." And then they remind me that animal products are sometimes used in wine. I say, "No, we don't do that either." But we also use the lightest glass possible, because every milligram of glass basically creates an exponentially negative effect on the environment. So we use light glass. We laser print our labels because we don't want to have any leftover ink. We're able to recycle the 30% of the cartridge we use, much less end up with a vat of ink. And we don't use any kind of foil on top. So we take every measure we can in the vineyards and in the bottles, from vine to bottle, to respecting the environment. This is 100% Cabernet. This is from our St. Helena vineyard. We no longer farm this vineyard, and so this will be the last vintage you see from this vineyard. It is, I think, a wonderful expression of a big, bold Napa Valley Cabernet, but it also speaks to the way that we do things a little bit differently. When I was writing, really enjoyed what Rajat Par was doing and talking about in terms of the pursuit of balance. So we pick a little bit earlier than everyone else. Not everyone else, but we pick a little earlier than average. Our period of maceration, careful with that one after a couple of drinks, but our period of maceration is shorter than most people's, much shorter than some of our neighbors like Heidi Barrett and others who are making incredibly collectible wines. But this has less tannin. It's going to have less structure, and you're probably tasting that now. But it still has a beautiful, powerful Napa Valley structure. It just is made to drink now. It's made to drink soon. As people were speaking about earlier, save this wine for 20 years, they were saying. That is an amazing thing. I don't recommend this. for my wines. I recommend 10 years, 12 years, or drinking them now, because the next thing we do is we put them into French oak, and beautiful French oak, but only for about 17 months, sometimes 19. But still, with the Napa Valley average being 24 to 26, a lighter oak touch. So again, less tannin. For us as farmers, you know, what I love about that is that I believe you're able to taste more of the vineyard, more about the specific place, more about the small decisions we make about what we're going to do with the canopy, what organic compounds like seaweeds are we going to use in the vineyards, what are we doing differently, how are we really going to make adjustments from year to year. And that you can taste when there is, you know, less influence from oak, when there is less influence of tannin. And so my hope is that you love this as much as all these wonderful judges have, the 94 points and all those other things. These are my partners right here. This is Steve Smith, 19 years in the music industry. John Truchard, his family is from the Truchard family, who started in the 70s. And with that, I will leave you for any questions that you may have. I do everything from vineyard to bottle. We've got a really small team, but wonderful team that I couldn't do any of this without. I host people in our Oak Knoll vineyards. We farm this amazing Cabernet, and we're going to be having a single vineyard Cabernet coming from those Clone 6 vines, I believe in 2 vintages. But right now I'm hosting people in the vineyards and pouring wines for them out there, and talking about what's going on out there, what we're doing differently, and then sitting in the gazebo. So if you want to come out, hang out in the vineyards, I would love to host you. They're complimentary. I don't charge people to come for a hang. I don't expect you to buy. There's no minimum purchase. It's just about coming and hanging out. So I invite you to do that. I too have a code for 20% off. And what I made, that was for this wine, but also all current vintage wines. And I'll be sending something in the chat that is my phone number and email, so you can book a tasting or tour in the vineyards. And you can also ask me any other questions that you may have. And so with that, I will leave it to questions, and I will once again say that it is really an honor to be invited by Ian Blackburn. What he's doing in this industry is really cool, and also to be surrounded by people like the Mondavis and like Russ Weiss, who in so many ways have founded this incredible industry, and which I've been so proud to support for the last 15 plus years, and be a vintner within for the last 9. Thanks, guys.
Congratulations, man. Beautiful wine. And it's the type of wine I could tell gets great medals at the tastings, or the judges tasting, you know, an array of different aromas. Sometimes nice to find something that's so balanced and so delicate and so pretty, and really it does smell like the Napa Valley. It's got that nice dust character in the nose, and really a wonderful mouthfeel. Very rewarding. Good job.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm seeing some really nice comments in the comment section. So I'm glad that you enjoyed my story. I love telling it. Thank you, Jim. To everybody else that's saying that they love the mouthfeel of this wine, you know, that's really important to me, because I want it to be subtle. You know, for me, I want it to be accessible. I want everything about Smith Devereux to be accessible. It's my name on the bottle, and I'm the one who picks up the phones. I'm the one who's out there in the vineyards making decisions about how much fruit we're going to drop, which is ultimately rather painful, since our wines do sell out. And I know that if we leave wine, we'll be able to sell more wine and potentially make more money, but we won't be able to make the kind of wines that we love. And so, you know, it's really meaningful. Every comment, every email, every wine club member, every person out there, truly grateful.
Thank you so much, and good job. I hope you'll participate with the others coming in, and let's check in with our group and see how everyone's doing. Jen and Josh, how are things tonight?
Excellent.
Great. So
having a great time. Everything's delicious so far.
Yes.
Cool. Good to see you guys. Lydia, everybody happy over there? Cool. Is your son 21? Nice to see the whole family. Spomberg, you doing all right, buddy?
Yeah, he was a much cooler version of Ian than you are, by the way.
I know, this is my brother, by the way. I'm just looking around. So.
Yeah, it was really, I agree, really nice on the palate, nice and smooth, and it was enjoyable.
Good, cool. I always joke, I always use you as a punchline in my tasting, in my class. If I'm gonna come see Brother Mike, I got to bring something that like changes the color of your teeth. So I'm happy to hear you start finally come over to the more elegant side of the fence. So, a little less is more sometimes.
I don't drink out of the bottle anymore, Ian.
That's come a long way, buddy. Come a long way. Emily, how are things tonight?
Excellent. These are all fantastic.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
I got my husband to join me this time.
All right. Yeah. What is your name, sir?
Joel.
Hey, Joel. I'm usually curious to see how Emily's reacting because she's sometimes on there with the girlfriends and stuff, chatting it up, and they're having a blast. So it's really nice to see you, Joel.
She's loving it.
Cool, man. Thanks. Well, we are cruising along, and I'm feeling pretty good. I hope you guys are too. We're going to move on to wine number 5. And my friend Michael Pulitz, who I've known for a good long time. Michael and I met when he was running things at the Peninsula, and we would do this tasting at the Peninsula. And he left town, went up to the Napa Valley, got this amazing job. Good job, Michael.
How are you?
Good job, dude. I'm loving it.
Thank you, sir.
Let's taste your wine. Wine number 5, Justice. Tell us all about it.
Cool. Do you have the PowerPoint again tonight, Ian?
Oh yes, sir.
Okay, good. Well, hello everybody. My name is Michael. I'm the director for a company called New Frontier Wine Company. Justice is one of our wines. Company is really a brand new company that we formed a little over a year ago now. It's composed primarily of Alejandro Bulgaroni Estate, which is a property in St. Helena, but we have a few other wine labels in the mix, one of which is being Justice, but we also have Waypoint, also Renwood is part of this company. If you go to the next slide, Ian, that's my contact details I put in the chat as well. But our philosophy is really to join together great craftsmen as well as great vineyards. And in terms of our winemaking team within the company, we're very blessed to have these rock stars work with us. People like Michelle Roland, Fleet Melka, Alberto Antonini, Joe Shovel, Matt Sands, just a great group of people. Ian, next slide. Let's do it.
You got it, dude.
Yeah.
I was keeping up with you there.
So you might be wondering who's behind this brand, and it is one man. It's this gentleman, Mr. Alejandro Bulgaroni. He is an Argentinian and got into the wine business very late in life. He started in 2007 with a large purchase of a piece of land in Uruguay, of all places. Planted a 100-acre Albarino vineyard that turned into a decade of searching out the best properties around the world to become an international vintner. That's exactly what he did over the course of those 15 years. So he has 15 properties around the world, everywhere from Australia, Uruguay, of course, Argentina, Italy, in Tuscany, Bordeaux, and then also here in Napa Valley, as well as Amador County. His main business is energy, but his legacy is all about agriculture. So he, amongst other things, including making wine, he's the largest blueberry grower in South America. He also has a completely off-the-grid dairy farm, which is fueled by the cows themselves. So he's passionate about renewable energy, passionate about agriculture, and as he is late in years, this is what he wants to give back to his children and give to the world. The main winemaker behind the wine in your glass is a gentleman by the name of Fleet Melka. You might have heard his name. He's, I would say, one of the top winemakers in the business today. He has his own property, as well as consults for some of the best around Napa Valley, places like Tusk, vice versa, Donna, Brand, really some of the who's who of the properties in the valley. When we started discussing this collection of brands, Philippe was already making the wines for Alejandro at his property with his name, and he graciously accepted taking over the winemaker for these brands. He, one of the most humble people in the valley, despite his success in the business. But but his approach is really to represent where these grapes are coming from, as well as the vintage in which they were grown. So, you know, our company is not interested in making what I call the Pepsi Cola of wines, which are the, you know, you buy a Pepsi today, the Pepsi tastes the same in 5 years if you were to buy it 5 years from now. We're really interested in expressing the vintage and the place. The next person that's involved in our project, because this is really about the people, is Matt Sands. Matt has been with Alejandro's estate from the very beginning and also oversees the day-to-day winemaking for this wine in front of you. He joined our property in 2014, fresh out of Screaming Eagle and Bryant family, two not very well-known wineries, maybe a small joke, but two very well-known wineries. So he's, and I enjoyed your brother's Bushwood T-shirt there, Ian. So I'm going to do a Caddyshack joke, if you don't mind.
Like that too.
Yeah, I would say Matt is an incredible. You know, he's. Oh, geez, now I lost my joke, Ian.
Oh, sorry.
You say he's no slouch. That's right. So I would say he's no slouch himself, and then
you're an incredible slouch.
You're an incredible slouch. Yeah. So Matt is
tremendous.
Tremendous
slouch.
Yeah. So Matt's an incredible guy himself, really kind of the next generation. And what we really enjoy having this team is it's about these heavy hitters, but as well as recognizing up and coming talent. And that's Matt and that's Joe. Now on to the wine, what's in front of you. So jurisdiction, you know, jurisdiction's a legal term. It really means you have authority over to hear a particular case. So the idea behind that name for this wine is we feel like we have authority to represent Napa Valley. So this is a wine made to just really represent what Napa is all about. You know, we source fruit for our projects from some of the best vineyards in Napa Valley, places like Tokelon, Las Piedras, the Bourne Vineyard, Dr. Crane, George III, some fruit from Pritchard Hill, the Upper Range Vineyard, really some of the most marquee sites in the valley. So this wine is a result of, you know, we make several single vineyard wines, but inevitably there's some really good wine that's left over at the end that, you know, didn't make it into the blend for whatever reason, and then you blend another wine. And so this is one of those wines. 96% Cabernet here, 4% Cabernet Franc. This was fermented entirely in stainless steel, but then saw about 60% new French oak for 20 months. Made start to finish, very much hands-on. I feel it really represents Napa Valley. Only 350 cases made. But I hope you very much enjoy it. Alejandro's mission, you know, wine brings people together, whether it's over Zoom or dinner table or hopefully at a restaurant very soon. And so hope you enjoy it. I will put a promo code to follow the trend here. I've already done it once. I'll do it again here in just a moment. But we have quite a bit of wines on our website, and you're welcome to have 20% off any order today. I'd love to have you try some of our wines. So thank you.
This
Cheers.
wine is no slouch, I'll tell you that.
No slouch.
Good job, Mike. Right on time.
I think I should say cannonball it, right? Cannonball it. Cheers, you all. Nice to be here. Thank you, Ian.
Great.
I have a quick question for Michael. Michael, what vineyards are these coming from?
You know, I wish I could tell you, but when you buy,
have to kill you.
Yeah, when you buy fruit from certain vineyards, a little unknown fact in Napa Valley, when you buy fruit from certain named vineyards, you must put that vineyard name on the bottle, and it must be a certain percentage of that vineyard for many of the contracts that we have. So in this case, it's not from a single vineyard, and it's also at a price point which we wouldn't really be allowed to sell some of those other vineyards at because of those relationships. So we have to hide where it's coming from. But with that in mind, the whole premise here is, do you like it or do you not? And if you like it,
delicious. We love it.
Good to see you, by the way, Hector.
We'll see you in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll put a little joke in the chat box for everybody. It's George Carlin talking about leftovers. And some leftovers are better than others, and as Michael was alluding to, there are some really top-end wines at the Bulgaroni and the other projects that they're working on. He listed them in the email, and those wines some of them actually require price points, north of $200 a bottle. And so you can't put those on a bottle of wine at this price point. And it's just a fantastic offering south of $100 a bottle. And you get 20% off of that tonight. So you might want to check that out and take Michael up on it. And by the way, Michael, his estate has amazing tours, and Michael's very hands-on. So take him up on coming up and visiting him and seeing his projects and tasting some amazing wines.
Thank you, Ian.
My pleasure, buddy. And thanks for being here. We are cruising. We're moving into wine number 6, Marston family. And James, you ready to rock?
Always ready, Ian. Thanks for having us, man.
Cool. Have you been tasting the wines tonight?
I have, and that's the beautiful thing about this. We haven't been able to do this in person with all these friends. With Russ, we do some Sauvignon Blanc from Yountville, so the Miller Ranch was fantastic. And I haven't met Christine up at Coquerel, but Chateau Carbonneau is absolutely one of our favorites. And what we know about that, that's always on our bench trial when we're doing our Sauvignon Blanc. Absolutely one of my favorite, amazing price point too. I know we're talking about Napa tonight, but definitely one to throw on the radar. Rihanna, it's just so great to see, the next generation of the generation. So, again, Ian, I haven't seen you in about, probably 14 months since COVID hit. So we have to do this all virtual. And then Michael, again, with the Bulgaroni stuff, it's just fantastic. So, this is almost like, I'm taking this in because this is a lot of fun for us. And I'm excited to talk about Marston, but, this is a real treat that, to taste these wines side by side, to hear the stories that go behind them. That's really the beauty of the Napa Valley, and people coming from all over. It's just amazing. So, with Marston, again, my first harvest was 2005. We got our start with Philippe, and I couldn't do nearly as good a job as Michael, given his background. But he took a flyer on us. He was working with Lael. He just come off Dominus back in '97, '98. He decided that he's a geologist and thought that, hey, working up on Spring Mountain was a good idea. So we're mainly growers. Our story begins in the late '60s. And, we're about 500 acres, give or take. Most of that is wild wilderness. Most of it's donated to the land trust. But we do have about 40 acres under vine. Much of that was, farmed back to the late 1880s. It was back, I think, about 17, give or take, varietals. Now we've kind of honed that in when we replanted in the early 90s, 92. We went to 3 varietals, Cabernet, Syrah, and Merlot. And actually over time, we realized that the Syrah and the Merlot were maybe not suited for the hillside. So we are 100% Cabernet. And we, again, are still mainly growers. And so most of the vineyard goes to some of our growing partners, Beringer being one of them. They do a Marston designate, which is great. We have some of our fruit going to the private reserve, which is fantastic. Mark Beringer making that wine. But we keep a little bit of our favorite blocks for our own label. And that's where Marston comes in. We've been doing that since 1998. The production's, anywhere from about 300 to 800 cases any given vintage. Again, we kind of select by the different areas. In the most recent years, we've been kind of doing it more from, the fruit profile. Up in the hillsides, we do have, as Russ mentioned, we have so many different soil types, so many different microclimates. Even up in the hillsides, that we really want to make sure that we're getting a great expression because we're 100% Cabernet. So we get the fruit from our upmost block 4. That gives a great fruit expression. It gets a lot of afternoon sun, particularly in the summer. And then we get some of our early picks in block 1, block 6. That's where we get a lot of our structure. I think the one thing you'll note on this is our 2016 that's in your class. This is absolutely, a young wine. You'll see the tannins coming through. You'll see the fruit profile. I think, at least on my early taste, I saw a little bit of that tail end of that fresh young oak. We do use 100% French oak. But I love where the 16's heading. I think, really Christine did a great job of describing the vintage because it gave us everything we wanted. We were coming off a number of drought years. We were coming off a lot of heat. And I think this 16 really gives you a lot of that pleasure and structure. It's a beautiful combination of so many variables that we love in the wine industry. So as a producer, 16 was a layup, you know, and I think we'd also say that 18 really carries that, but we're not there yet. But, you know, as far as I think we're tasting a bunch of 16s tonight. That's a lot of fun. But yeah, you know, as far as getting into, I guess, you know, making sure that I'm not leaving Ian high and dry. We're at the very end. We're actually off, we're the southernmost vineyard on Spring Mountain. I'm sorry you have to look at that picture of me, but, you know, we also like to celebrate our Burgundies. But yeah, I've been with the family since '05, married into it. And it's been so fun to be more on the winemaking and the viticulture side. I think Ian said it great, when you really spend so much time in the vineyard because you care what goes into the cellar. And then from the cellar on, you know, I loved what he was talking about in terms of the bottle, the glass, that all matters. But at least when you talk about the vineyard, that's probably my favorite element to be a part of, because we're right now at the very beginning of bud break. And we'll all post pictures. We'll all kind of try to get that out from a marketing angle. But it's amazing what that actually does, because the next phase is pruning, and that sets the vine up. You know, a lot of the pruning mechanisms were put forth last season. And it's amazing. You have to think about the long-term element in the wine industry. And so last season, you know, really dictates this year. This year dictates next year. And that's just what's so beautiful about this industry. You know, the long-term approach, the patience, understanding those small details can yield significant rewards, you know, down the road. You know, and with Marston, you know, basically our Cabernet is our estate. Again, about 50 acres, give or take. We also have a Sauvignon Blanc we call Albion, which is 100% Sauvignon Blanc. It's a Loire clone. We get that from Yountville, Tom Gamble's ranch there. And we're also up in Calistoga. We started doing a Petit Syrah there in 2012. And really that was an homage to, you know, kind of a bygone era of Napa. You know, we used to do a Petit Syrah. That was one of the 11 varietals planted on the ranch, early days. And we had it up until 92 when we were planted. And believe it or not, we ripped out those vines in 1993 because, you know, we were getting about a quarter ton to the acre, which the Napa Valley average is, you know, 3 to 5, give or take. Hillside, you're a little less. But the economics were just brutal. But meanwhile, you know, Sean Thackeray was making those wines, and unfortunately, he would put it into the Sirius label. And in 1992, with his Sirius Petit Syrah, it ended up getting best wine in the world by Wine News. And so here we are with, you know, the vines ripped out, this beautiful bottle of wine, but not a whole lot to do with it going forward. So we knew as a family we had to get back to that varietal. And so here we are in 2012. It took us 20 years to find a site in Calistoga that we really believed in. Small 3-acre parcel. We get about 100 cases out of it. But Petit Syrah, again, one of the hallmark vintage varietals of the Napa Valley, and we just love that we're bringing that back. But yeah, you know, we've had a lot of fun. Our winemaker now is Marbu Mark. We brought him on board in 2009 because Elizabeth and I thought that, you know, as we were taking the reins, you know, from the family, establishing the next generation, it was so fun to be involved in all the intricate decisions. We're small. Any given vintage, we're about 1,200 cases, give or take. So it's really a lot of fun to get to share our 2016 estate with you tonight. Yeah, and I think everybody said it so much better that, you know, I don't want to drone on, but if you have any questions, happy to answer it. You know, so many, I'm just thrilled to, you know, be able to connect with so many of the friendly faces here, both on the collector as well as the production side. It's been a long time, and we're really looking forward to welcoming you back to the Valley. You know, we're ready for it. You know, I saw a great ad the other day that was "Come work from the Valley," and I can't imagine a better place to come work from. I mean, you know, we had a little bit of a fall back into spring or if you call it winter, past few days, but you know, we've just had an amazing spring and looking forward to a great season ahead. Yeah, there's Marbu. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's great. I've not met Marbu before, and he's got to be the only winemaker in Napa Valley from Sierra Leone.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he'd probably kill me, but like, one of my favorite stories about him is that he's a phenomenal winemaker. He's been working with John Caldwell for a long time. He's now over at Italic. You know, with our limited production, we you know, he's got to do some other things as well. So we love being able to share them. He's also got some projects down in Santa Barbara, et cetera. But what we love about him is that, you know, he's really a creative mind at work. His parents were doctors, you know, coming from Sierra Leone. His dad's up at Davis. As a 16-year-old kid, he was kind of a prodigy coming from, you know, hometown. Goes in, he's with his dad doing some rounds, thinking he's going to go the whole medicine route. You know, somebody's getting a shot, and Marbu walks up thinking, now he can handle it. You know, instantly passes out on the floor. Nothing left to do. You know, day two, thought he just didn't have enough for breakfast. Comes in, makes a round, same thing. You know, somebody gets a shot, he's on the floor. So you realize that, you know, he may have the chemistry mind, but, you know, instead of medicine, it might be fermentation sciences. You know, I could go on about his story with, you know, Niles Zackerley. He knows Niles Zackerley as well, but Niles Zackerley was one of his TAs. Niles makes a bunch of great wines, makes a great beer there in the Valley. He got him introduced to fermentation science. The rest is history. So I can't say enough things about Marbu. I just love working with him on the bench. You know, what he does on Sauvignon Blancs, amazing. What we do with yeast. You know, our oak program is very, very important. And I'd say we take a lot of it from Opus One in the sense of we take 5 Coopers, you know, for our 500-600 case production on average. We tend to have 5-6 Coopers, and we always kick one out. And it's really the Opus One model, trying to make sure that our sourcing is right, you know, paying attention to those details. For us, it's a lot of fun. You know, hopefully you don't see too much transition in the wine, but we see it on the bench and the blend that goes into it. So again, it's the small things that we get really excited about. And every year is a labor of love. Every year is, we hope, an expression that really shows the story of the vineyard rather than what we're trying to tell. And so it's really a pleasure to share this with you.
Is there like a signature note in the nose of your wine that you like to point out? Because there's a little difference between all the wines that we're tasting tonight.
Yeah.
And you know, when I picked up this glass, I was like, whoa, and it really made me focus. There's something very Spring Mountain about it.
Yeah. You know, we're surrounded, as you see in this picture. That's Tucker. You know, he just turned 12 in October. He's still our Lord of the Vines, as you will. We actually have his son Fitzwilliam as well, so it's a lot of fun to have those guys run around. But I think, Ian, you're right. You know, that hillside you see behind you, and actually, if you're familiar with Spring Mountain, that little up in the upper left is Cane. That's the lower bowl of Cane. We kind of share a little canyon with Cane and Newton, and I think that forest is what really gives you that signature Marston. There's almost this, you know, foresty, almost piney freshness that comes through, and yet this intense kind of, I really feel like we're more on the red fruit than we are on the black or the blues, you know, and really ripe vintages like 16, you know, we'll kind of dabble in the really blueberries a little bit, but I don't think we quite get the juiciness of like blackberry that will come from Las Piedras, some of the Bulgaroni stuff. I think they really do a great job of expressing a lot of those kind of, you know, black and blue fruits. We're really on the red, you know, and I think that's kind of the signature. We try to be a little bit more conservative, not by design, but by where we think the vines are best expressing themselves. We try to not use too much heavy wood so that it overpowers the profile. And yet here on the 16, to be honest, I think you're seeing a little bit of that vanillin that's tapering off because Marston tends to hit its stride about 7 years after vintage. So 23, 24 is really where this wine's going to start to hit its first plenitude. And then we're only going to kind of keep evolving, you know, not by design, but by just where we are. That tannin profile is going to carry these wines. The acidity is going to carry these wines. And that's where I think we're just looking for a little bit of patience, looking for time to be on our side. So it's fun to see the 16 in that almost fruit forward, you know, for Marston. This wine is a little bit more fruit forward and really balanced out well by that oak profile. So I'm really excited that this is, you know, showing the way it is tonight.
Gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. Any questions?
Thank you.
Ian, you're tasting at home along with these guys. These guys have any questions? We're going to move into talking with Isaac here in a second. But Jen, Josh, Wendy, any of you guys have anything you want to add? Please go right ahead. Rihanna, are you tasting with us tonight? Do you get to taste?
Unfortunately, no, because it was the last minute change with my uncle. He got the tasting kit, I didn't, but you can damn well be sure I'm going to try and track that kit down so I can taste everything now.
That's cool. Christine, are you able to taste with us? Are you tasting the wine? There you go.
I would love to test, but the kit never show up today. So.
Oh no, it's so
So
sorry.
maybe I will get it tomorrow. So I'm taking note.
All right. Well, your wine is super beautiful tonight too. So thank you. And that's the problem with sending it to the Napa Valley. At some points in time, the delivery services overnight to the Napa Valley. I think I think those delivery guys make a few stops at the wineries on the way up and let's call it a day.
Or maybe they drug it.
Yeah, it is possible too.
Good for them.
Isaac, did you get your tasting kit?
I did. Right on time. And I thought Christine's wine was beautiful.
Awesome.
So,
cool.
Yeah, really a special treat, something that's kind of not typical in Napa Valley. So I was blown away by it. Loved it. And I have to say, Rihanna, I remember as a young kid visiting Virginia, Minnesota, and visiting my grandfather, who was in the mining business, whose father, my great-grandfather, was also in the mining business and had immigrated from Italy and was making wine in his basement, very possibly from your descendants.
It could have been.
And so I just have to say, I remember my grandfather distinctly telling me we could have been the Mondavis.
Maybe next prohibition.
So, the Parolos didn't show up into Napa Valley until 2018. So, we're coming for you.
Welcome to Napa Valley now. God, what a small world. Virginia, Minnesota is not exactly a big town.
Yeah, it really is amazing. So,
How cool
with
is
that, I before I introduce the Unwritten brand, I feel like I need to tell my unwritten sort of wine story, how I got into the wine business. In 2009, I made the decision to not go to law school, and instead I decided that I would, get my car and travel the country, essentially seeking out the world's rarest wines, first growth Bordeaux's, Domaine Romanée-Conti, and so forth. And I would find these wines in retail shops around the country, and I'd bring them to auction in Hong Kong, London, San Francisco, New York, and that brought me coast to coast. So I've been to more than 15,000 different beer, wine, and spirit retail shops. Wow. And along the way, I aside from doing my auction business, I'd find great deals on wines that I enjoyed to drink myself. And so I eventually accumulated a wine collection of, it was something like close to 3,500 bottles of wine. They were all sitting in a one-bedroom apartment in Lafayette, Louisiana at 62 degrees. And I realized one day that there was just no way that I was going to be able to possibly drink this. I would give it a good college try, but I doubt that, it was just too much. And so I just decided to send out a friends and family mixed case offering to everybody in my email address book. And it just sort of took off like wildfire. And shortly thereafter, I ended up, with, one of those friends who was a client of mine, and they were the recent purchasers of a large property on Diamond Mountain. And they needed to do a bunch of renovation, and they were building their own winery. And in 2018, they asked me if I'd ever thought about moving to Napa Valley. And I said, every day don't tempt me. And they did tempt me. And so it didn't take very long before I had packed up a, 12-foot truck with everything I could fit in it. And I arrived in St. Helena, like I said, in the middle of 2018, and helped my friends open their winery over on Diamond Mountain, and it was amazing. And then I got the entrepreneurial bug of, hey, I didn't come out here just to help my friends. I feel like there's something bigger for me to be in the wine industry. And so, I eventually got linked up with Matt Murphy from Unwritten, and I told him my unwritten story, and he told me his unwritten story, and we were like, let's do this together. And so I was so excited, and he wrote me into it, and now I'm here, and I'm thrilled to be able to present this brand and this wine tonight. We're fortunate to have Mark Perimsky as our winemaker, and so Ian, if you wanted to load up the
PowerPoint.
So our first vintage was 2014, and we actually were established. Matt was integral to it. He and several other couples decided, after, a handful of bottles of wine one night, they just said, let's make a wine, or let's start a winery. And it was just sort of, why not? And, a lot of us had those ideas, and yet, Matt's somebody that I can see saying, hey, if we're going to do this, let's do this. And so he decided to just, let's push forward and pursue this. And first thing they needed to do was find a winemaker. And so we were linked up with Mark Perimsky. If you want to pull ahead a few slides.
Sure, man.
Yeah.
There's your 14 edition. There's Mark.
So Mark, we got started small. First finished in 2014, 50 cases. 50 cases in 2015 as well. Through Mark, we were able to gain access to the Llewellyn Ranch, which it's a very historic vineyard in Napa Valley. And to go back to Mark, he arrived here in 2000, worked in some cellars at a few places, and by 2005, he'd worked his way into his first winemaking job with Anomaly, which is a small winery here in St. Helena. Shortly thereafter, he created his own label called Zeitgeist, where he was joined by his wife, Jen Williams, who is a world-class winemaker in her own right, having previously been at Spotswood as both vineyard manager and winemaker, and now she's the winemaker at Paulmeyer and Arrow Branch. And so between both of their projects together, they do their blending sessions at the kitchen table, and so you can only imagine what that's like. It's fascinating to see two high-profile winemakers married and contributing to both of each other's projects. And so it's exciting to have Mark involved in this. And so, like I said, through Mark, we were able to access some fruit from Llewellyn Ranch, which is a very historic property, in the Napa Valley, established in 1864 by John Llewellyn, who is considered to be the father of California horticulture. His brother Seth actually ended up in Oregon and was planting cherry trees, and his Chinese foreman that he had was named Ah Bing, and together they actually invented the Bing cherry. Wow. And so, I mean, the sort of, the horticulture and viticulture that's sort of, in the Llewellyn family is certainly, it's in their blood, obviously. And so this property never left their family. It's possibly the oldest continuously owned family farmed vineyard in the Napa Valley. Currently, fifth and sixth generations are handling the farming on the property. And like I said, we started small, 50 cases, 17. We actually jumped all the way to 142 cases. Vast majority of it comes from this Llewellyn Ranch property. I think if you go one slide next, we may have a little flyover where you can see.
And I'm going to tell you right now, we're having a hard time getting
access. All right. Well, we were going to have a little flyover where you could see Mark tending to the vines, and then the beautiful olive grove that sits behind the vineyard.
Didn't we show this video the other day? And I don't know why I don't have access tonight.
I don't know. You may have to like reset your cookies or something. I don't know.
Something with my cookies. That's
that's.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's all right. You can go ahead and move to the next one. And so Mark's winemaking style is really hands off. Really trying to let the vineyard and the vintage shine through, and I mean he does an incredible job with that. I really find that I think the first time I ever had a wine from Llewellyn Ranch was I think it was like 2006 vintage, and I just distinctly remember there being this just sort of marker to the wine that I later started to pick up in other vintages of Llewellyn's wines. And the first time I was able to taste this wine, it jumped out of the glass like that to me, and it was just like, wow, this is Llewellyn Ranch. It's amazing. It's a like I said, historic property. It's an alluvial fan, and that is on the southwest side of St. Helena, and the soil is really just sort of gravelly, well draining. Just sort of combine that with the optimal sort of warm days and cool nights of St. Helena, and you've just got optimal conditions for producing Cabernet Sauvignon. And I feel like if you guys want to put your nose in this glass, it really just the aromatics I think are extraordinary in it. And I might say that you might even get a little bit of Bing cherry compote in there. It's and lots of complexity. We're using some of the best coopers in the business. Darnajou, certainly top end of that, and we also use some Terran. So this wine has about 70% new French oak, and it's aged for 25 months. So we give it a little bit more time than some others, and we keep it in the bottle for a little while before we release it, and we just think it's beautiful. So I hope you guys enjoy it tonight.
Spectacular. This awesome 94 plus.
Yeah, this was the first vintage that we were lucky to have, we only had 50 cases of the first two vintages of Unwritten. But we were fortunate to get that wine onto the wine list at the French Laundry, at Press, the Acacia House, a couple places in Tahoe, and 17 was the first vintage that we actually had the critics taste it, and to get Robert Parker's Wine Advocate to call us a nice newbie. We don't mind being the new kids on the block if that's what they're going to say. So super excited about the reception that we received, and really excited one of the things I also want to say is that we have just started our tasting program here in St. Helena, and so we love it to have if you're enjoying the wine, we would love to have you come and visit and share the wines with you. We're tasting through a few vintages of it, and so you'll get to see sort of one after the other, how these, how Mark really can kind of let the vineyard and the vintage shine. And we're excited about, like I said, being the new kids on the block. Cheers, guys.
Great job, man. I also think we ought to come visit and check out that beard. That is one hell of a beard, man.
Hey, I got my first shot earlier this week, and so I'm going to hold out the shaving until I get my second vaccine, and
that's
Corona beard will be gone. So.
That is a hell of that's a manly beard. I can't tell where the hair starts and the beard start. It's like you got a mane there. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Greg, are you jealous of his beard?
I am. First, I thought he was going to say That's what happens when you get the shot.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Josh,
I can say all I got was a sore arm. And so, yeah.
Josh, you have a beard. What do you think of that beard? That's crazy, great beard right there, don't you think?
I feel like that beard has its own beard, and that beard's beard is better than my beard.
Thank you.
That's cool. Well, now we've tasted all the wines. We're all feeling pretty good. So now would be a great time to ask any questions of the talent that we have on the screen, and they're all here to listen, talk, and winemakers. If you have questions too, Christine, maybe tomorrow you'll give Isaac a call and talk to him about his wine. But Hector, what do you think, buddy?
This was amazing. Has a really dense earth to it. Really beautiful, like sprinkles of clove in it, which we really love, and it has some gripping tannins in it. But man, your lineup tonight, Ian, was. I mean, I have to say, I don't want to say better than yesterday, but I think it might have been better than yesterday.
Well, you just said it.
It was better than yesterday. I was looking at my notes and I was like, oh my goodness.
Thank you, Lee. Well, Isaac, I wanted to ask you about that trip you made with like 30,000 retail stores. What were you doing, like 10 a day? That's cool.
I'm telling you. So I was one of the top sellers, if not probably the top seller through Vinfolio, and I was literally looking for Lafite Rothschild and Domaine Romani Conti, etc. But I can't tell you. I mean, there's it's this amazing country that has liquor laws that are completely different in every state, and so you have a lot of states that can't ship, and so their target market is people that live about 10 miles from their store. And I can't tell you how many wine shops I walked into and found, wines that I would sell on my phone for about 10 times what they were selling them to me for. And it just, like I said, it took me coast to coast. It's a fascinating way to view this country and how.
Dude, that sounds like an awesome movie, right?
It really, it's unwritten right now. So everybody is wanting to, if anybody has a screenwriter that wants to come and meet me, I'm happy to pour him a few glasses on Unwritten and we can collaborate.
Ian, I had a question for all the filmmakers, for the winemakers. In the 80s, a wine bottle weighed around 2 pounds, and now they're weighing like 4 pounds. What's up with that? I mean, it's like I'm carrying weight,
Well, not necessarily tonight. We had a pretty, I think a lot of the bottles tonight are a little lighter. Your Unwritten is certainly significant, Isaac.
Right. Yes.
This is the Unwritten bottle. It's a beautiful package, a little soft wax top, which you just, by the way, you don't have to peel that off or anything. You just go right through that.
That's right.
Super clean. Love it's so understated and unwritten, as you said. And Marston's, I guess jurisdiction will cost you a few pennies to ship. This thing, I can do some nice weight lifting here with jurisdiction.
Yeah, Ian, when I was traveling around the country, aside from Lafite Rothschild, I was also seeking out Schrader. And I remember the 12 packs of Schrader that I was sourcing from places and shipping. I think those might have hit 60 pounds for a case. It was really sort of extraordinary. It was like, this is not green, but I think there's been the studies that say when you pick up the bottle and it weighs a lot, it lands for people.
Yes, so. It's a mental target. It's got to be great. And
yeah.
So Isaac, what year was this that you were doing this across?
So, it was 2009 through 2018, but the vast majority of the traveling where I was going literally just to wine shops I'd never been to was in the first probably 4 years. It was while the Chinese were buying up Lafitte Rothschild, essentially, and then Domaine Romanée-Conti
and overpaying for it, by the way.
Outrageous, outrageous. I mean, I can't tell you. I went to Shreveport, Louisiana, and I'm buying bottles of I think it was 2001 Lafitte Rothschild with a discount for like $170 and selling them on my phone for $1,000 a bottle, and it was just.
That's a golden moment.
Those were the glory days, I can tell you. Eventually, I got to the point where I had to drive more than 1,000 miles in any direction from Lafayette, Louisiana, to where I could find a reasonably priced bottle of Lafitte Rothschild, because I'd already gone there, bought it, and sold it, and they weren't restocking with the new prices. So it was.
You cleaned up the South.
It was fascinating. Yeah.
Well, good for you, man. That's a great story. I love it.
Thanks.
Love it.
I appreciate it. It was, I was glad to be able to park the car in St. Helena and just not have to drive all over the country anymore. So
the pace of that life is probably pretty tough.
Yeah.
But I did the same thing back in the 97 port vintage. I sold port, and I would sell it to my account and then buy it and then sell it to another account because everybody wanted it so badly. And then,
right.
You were obviously making a hell of a lot more money than I was, because the internet was barely starting to lift at that point. But the whole online wine auction world and stuff like that's pretty fascinating.
It really was. It was really where I gained most of my education regarding the most sought after wines in the world. It was because I started to see them moving in prices. And so, you find out what Macedo is and, so on. And it just, it was an incredible time period where there was such a dislocation between what's sitting in stores and what was trading online. And it was, like I said, it was glory days. It was fun. I don't think you could do it today. It's a different market now. So
different world.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Wines are even better, but
yeah, for sure.
I have a question for Michael. Michael, we love your Alejandro Bulgaroni wine. We've been following it for a while. On a marketing level, it seems like the vineyard itself, whether it's the Dr. Crane or Las Piedras, it has more of a value to it, or is there pushing more the vineyard versus possibly the brand? And I'm more going towards the vineyard where it's coming from versus the brand sometimes. And then sometimes I'm in that middle level where's it coming from? What vineyard is it coming from versus what brand is it? Can you kind of reflect on that?
Maybe just a very simple answer would be, we want to be known for a certain level of, a certain level of craftsmanship behind what we do in terms of where we source these grapes, how we make the wine. And I think we want to be known for not necessarily just the vineyards, but also the wines, but everything is connected. But I think really what we're most concerned about is just trying to represent our values in terms of how we make the wine. And, that starts at the very top of what we do in terms of the Bulgaroni wines, as well as all the way down to the Renwood wines. The same level of care and concern is applied to each one of those projects. And so that's what we're trying to communicate through these brands. But that being said, the Bulgaroni wines, a single vineyard To Kalon and Crane and Las Piedras, these are the Grand Crus of Napa Valley. So that really is about the vineyard, because we're really striving to represent that particular place in the world through our lens. But the rest of the project's not really.
And I think that brand trust is probably way more important than vineyard designation. I mean, you can go back to the old world with Burgundy, and one person's rendition of Clos Vougeot versus another. It's definitely about who the brand is and do you trust that brand. and they're going to make, like Michael just said, they're going to take very good stewardship of the fruit, of the winemaking, put their name on it, and that's where you got to develop the trust for the brand. So all these guys want to have a relationship with you, and I hope that if you get up to the Napa Valley, you will call on all these folks. I hope that you will look at the auction and potentially buy their auction item, start a relationship with the brand. They're going to send you the auction item directly, and that'll be cool. So get in there. Greg, anything new that we want to talk about there?
Basically, I just want to shout out a couple of our new bidders. We have Lydia bidding, we have Jessica, Elizabeth, and Sheila. And we actually have a nice bidding war going right now on Smith Devereux.
Woo! Yeah, go Ian, go.
So yeah, so everything's good. We love to have a bidding war with all the items, but thank you again for everybody that's bidding. Thank you to all the wineries. As you know, all the money raised goes to Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. So far, this is our 5th online auction, and we've already raised over $12,000.
That's great.
Thank you, guys.
Kat, anything you want to conclude with?
I was just going to type in, thanks for spending the evening with us and for allowing our vintners to come into your home virtually and sharing their wines with you. We much appreciate it. And we really do look forward to the day when we can welcome you back to the Valley when you're ready at our wineries.
I want you to notice my brother's screen. He's actually there. He's probably laying on the floor. So we have a good time beating each other up. It's a good family thing.
Wonderful tasting. Thanks.
Yeah.
Ian. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. That was great.
Oh, Mike, you're awake. I'm gonna hang out. You guys take it easy. We'll see you very soon. Next week we have Napa Valley Nights 3 and 4. If you haven't already joined us, you still can. And we have our Zoom into Wine platform, which is really, really what we're doing now. I mean, we used to be involved in the live event business, and when we had to pivot hard. So I want you just to take a look at the Zoom into Wine calendar if you can, and all of the stuff that we've got coming up there. We're hanging out with different winemakers all over the world. Every Wednesday is a different winemaker. Every Saturday is a different experience. We're going to virtual visits coming up, something new. We're kind of pretending to be going into Paso, going into little nooks and crannies of the wine world and hanging out with different winemakers. So we're going to Paso, we're going to Santa Clara, we're going to go into different regions, and not just the most famous. We're going to see small producers and continue the educational pursuit as well, but really have fun exploring the diversity of wines. We got a thing coming up on port wine. We're hanging out with Matt Dees in Santa Rita Hills with my friend Chef Bob Blummer. We're talking fava beans on, I think it's St. Patrick's Day. So we got the fava bean involved. It's about as green as we could get. And Bob Blummer's gonna bring some classic recipes that he learned with the folks, let's see, some of the great restaurateurs in LA. He'll tell you the story. But we've got Bob and Matt Dees, who's just a great winemaker in Ballard Canyon and Santa Rita Hills, showing off some awesome stuff. And then we've got the Stars of Italian Wine next month. And I'm gonna be real excited to share with you next week what that looks like, because we've already got all the signups. We don't have the website ready yet, but we're working on it every day. And then we'll be out there with a white wine event, Stars of White Wine and Stars of Rosé. And moving into the summertime, we got Stars of Pinot. And so a lot of things planned for us here. And then during the day, we spend our days building up our family's wine store, the Merchant of Wine, and we deliver for free in LA. So if you haven't taken advantage of that, we'd love to have you take a look at the Merchant. But with everything that we've been through, wow, it's starting to change. The world's starting to change. The sun's coming out. The flowers are blooming. It's like a new world right now, and I'm super excited about that. And I can't wait to get in my car and drive to the Napa Valley. And I'll be coming up to see each and every one of you very, very soon. And I encourage all of you to do the same. There's phone numbers in the chat boxes. These guys, that's their cell phone number. You know, and they even put their credit card numbers and their social security numbers in the chat box if you look close enough. No, please take them up on their offers to come and visit. Mike, how you doing, dude? You feeling all right? Oh, is that Ashley sneaking in there?
That's Ashley's mom. There she is. Mother-in-law.
Ashley's mom. I saw the blonde hair. I didn't see you.
It's an older version of Ashley.
There's Tyson.
Hey, Tyson, 14 years old. Well, I want to thank the whole lot of you for joining us tonight, and I hope you had fun. And we'll see you in the near term. But thank you, Napa Valley Vintners.
What a pleasure.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Cheers.
you, everybody.
Everyone.
Wonderful
Great night.
night.
Cheers.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys. Good night.